Well, welcome back to UFOs Above Us. All right, today is March 27th, and I thought I'd do another moon anomaly picture. And as you can see in this picture, you can probably guess what the main object of interest is going to be. Look right in the center of this crater here. And it's pretty obvious we have something that's kind of a delta wing shaped, certainly to me looks like a craft. So we're going to study that today. What is the object we're looking at and who put it there? So my first question, what is this object? To me, it looks like a craft. And as I zoom in, I think you'll see why I might think that. It's got kind of what we're used to seeing, the shape of some kind of a craft. Now, why a craft in space with no atmosphere would have conventional wings, I don't know. Because logic would tell me in space where there's a vacuum, you don't really need wings. However, if there were an atmosphere on these planets or moons that they're landing on, just because we're told there's no atmosphere doesn't mean that that's necessarily true. And if there were atmosphere, when they're coming into or out of the atmospheres of planets, then wings would be very helpful. So just something to think about there. So anyway, let's look at this object. I'm going to kind of zoom in so we can see this crater, and I know it pixelates a little as it gets large there, so I kind of work back and forth. But as we zoom in, this certainly for all intents and purposes looks like some kind of a control arm coming out of the side of this crater. And you can even see some structure built onto it right there. Do you see that right there? You've got like a straight line right there. And it looks like some kind of columns or something right here, and maybe even a doorway, or maybe even this is a building right here, built into that little section right there. And you've got this arm extending out. What I expect is here is a launch pad or a landing pad. So my theory is that this is a way for them to get this giant craft. Keep in mind, this crater we're looking at, it's about 5 kilometers across. So this is a huge aircraft, spacecraft. And this may be a great location for them to conceal it. When it lands, it would be easy enough for them to get that in the dark area where you can't easily see it. But maybe when it's taking off and landing, it has to be on this pad so that it doesn't damage the floor if there's a lot of structure in the floor of that crater. So just my thought on what that could be. So anyway, and I want to just kind of look at the objects around it as well. There's a lot of structure built into this so-called crater. I always get a kick out of NASA. Isn't it interesting how they always say that these craters on the moon are just millions of years of meteor strikes? Do you think there's a meteor strike that would leave that? I mean, be honest with yourself. For those that are still on the fence about structures on the moon, do you really think a meteor strike is going to look like this? Again, this is an untouched picture from my own gear. How could that be justified in your mind of these are meteor strikes on the moon? It just doesn't make sense. Look at this wall. Does that really look like that's a naturally occurring regolith from a meteor strike? I mean, look at the clear-cut rectangles and look at even the arches on these things. I mean, y'all, these are buildings. Look at that nice square one with, again, the arched roof right there. And you can just go on and on and on and even look outside of the crater itself. Look at all these buildings. Look at all these structures with the huge archways and, clear-cut, paths, tubes or paths and roadways and rectangles and squares and triangles and towers. How can NASA and the government say with a clear conscience that it's just a cold, dead rock when we see all this stuff? My question would be, why aren't they showing us? Their images are probably incredible. So why aren't we seeing this? So again, this is Matt at UFOs Above Us. I'm sharing the actual images that I capture, and I want to encourage others to do the same thing. I think as a community of skywatchers, we probably have a lot to offer if we would just put a little more effort into working together instead of competing with each other. So keep watching the skies. And guys, please share your results. If you don't want to share it directly, get your images to one of the larger sites and let them share it. If you have been ignored from the larger sites, feel free to send now keep in mind, this is for original images. Things that you capture or see on the internet, that's different. But if you take pictures of UFOs or moon anomalies with your own gear, and you don't want to share it and the large sites ignore you, feel free to send it to me and I'll be glad to share things from others. Just be sure you put a comment in there saying, hey, this is my original footage, and you have permission to share it, and I'll do it. Doesn't bother me at all. I'm happy to get the word out on anything. My goal is just disclosure. And by disclosure, I'm really just saying I want to know the truth. Hopefully you do too. So for UFOs above us, keep watching those skies.